legal information, also for rapid response, and then we do know your rights talks. So know your rights, and we'll be passing out cards. There's going to be cards at the table. There's these red cards, and you may have heard about them. These cards are for immigrants to show, or really for anyone, your constitutional rights. Many people don't understand that in the United States, every person that is on the soil of the U.S. has constitutional rights. Your status does not matter. The rights are, your fundamental rights are for everybody. And so it's important for people to know their rights when they're in a situation, especially with immigration or other law enforcement. So we do talks that help people to understand their rights, but you have the right to remain silent. You do not have to say anything to immigration officials, except in Arizona, and this may vary by state, but you have to give your name if they ask your name. You do not have to give any other information. So it's important for people to know that. They have the right to see an attorney. They have the right to not have you enter your home. If someone knocks on your door, you do not have to answer it. You do not have to let them into your home. That is guaranteed under the Constitution, under the Fourth Amendment. If you open your door, that can be seen as giving permission to enter. And so these are the kinds of things that are very important for people to know, especially for immigrants living in our communities that may not understand the law. And the law may not be honored, and so they need to know everything they can to protect themselves. You have the right to not be searched on your body or in your home without a judicial warrant, and that's a warrant that's signed by a judge. So these are the cards that we give out, and we're going to give them to you because it's important for you to also hand these out to people in your community that you know. So that's the Know Your Rights portion. Family plans. These are family plans that we also give to immigrant families. If you have an emergency, you probably have a plan for what would happen to you if you go to the hospital. These are plans for an emergency situation of what's going to happen to your family if you are taken and detained by immigration, right? What's going to happen to your children? Who's going to pick your children up at school? Who is going to pick up your car? Who's going to deal with your pets at your home? Any type of situation, this is going to help them prepare ahead of time to know and have all of their information collected and organized so that they have a trusted person who's someone that's here with status, like a legal permanent resident or a citizen, that can hold their information. And then if they're detained, they can call or text that person quickly to let them know, and then that person can put their plan into action for what they need to do to take care of their family that's left here. It's a lot of important and difficult conversations sometimes for families to have of what they would do if one of the parents was taken, or if both of the parents were taken. Would they leave their children here? Would they want their children back with them? Those are conversations that we can have with them, but we can also give them the tools to talk about that among their family. Then we also provide legal information. We're not attorneys, we can't give legal advice, but we can give legal information for how to find an attorney, to connect someone with an attorney, how to locate someone once they're detained in in the system, how to find report date, lots of information like that. Just see. And Sarah has done a great job of providing a lot of this information to Alianza News on their website since last summer. She's done a number of articles that appear there, and so they're all in Spanish, and then people can click and view those that talk about their rights, that talk about preparing, that talk about ICE and what they do. So that's another way that we can give people information. I think that's all that I'm going to say. And we're going to take questions at the end. So if, unless you have something that you're afraid you're going to forget it, then go ahead and ask it. But Mike is going to talk for a few minutes then about rapid response. And after that, then Sarah's going to come up, and she is going to talk about what has happened in the community this week and kind of give an update about that.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting us to this community. To provide you some information, I want to talk a bit about rapid response, which is just simply a community-based network whose purpose is to document ICE activities as they are occurring in our communities, document, monitor them, and I have developed 3 teams in our area, Prescott Valley, Prescott, and Chino Valley. Teams of people who have been trained to respond to ICE activity in a broad range of circumstances. Much of the work that we do is to verify and to confirm ICE activity from rumors and or false alarms, which I have to admit might be 98% of the reports that we get.
Until this week.
Until this week, right, and there's been a lot more activity. And so the other thing we like to do is support families and people who are involved with families who have members who are being detained. And those folks suddenly are met with a really unfortunate crisis. And so we try to we will provide emotional support and also information, especially through the legal arm, about what is now going to occur with their detained family member. And that is a really, really important part of what we do, to help settle down the families and to help so that they're assured that they have support, and they need it badly. So, in a nutshell, that's what the rapid response teams are up to. We have not faced any large-scale ICE activities in our area. The ICE activities are primarily what I call one-offs or rather isolated incidents, more like traffic stops. And you'll hear more about that from Sarah, who will be reporting on what's been going on. There has not been a whole heck of a lot of activity in the last 9, 10, 11 months in our area, like those that we have witnessed on TV in Chicago, Minneapolis, etc.
Until this week again.
Yeah. And then there's been a lot of activity, and we expect some more. So, I'm always looking for more volunteers who might be interested in this kind of work. So I'll hand it over to Sarah now. Is that right?
Okay, thank you. We're going to be passing around right now I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how people have been caught up by immigration until this past week, and then tell you a little bit about our experience this week. And then Jennifer will return, and we've come up with a variety of ways that you can get involved, and it's a variety of different things. But we will be passing around when we start on how you can participate. We'll pass around our little folders here that we have, which explain these teams and provide also the phone numbers that we have. So there's a phone number which goes to the legal team, and it comes to my phone because we don't have money to pay for a real 800 number or staff or anything like that. And it has been, it was silent for a long time, and it has been very, very, very busy very recently. So as a matter of fact, I've been getting messages all morning on that line from people who have been affected this past week. So you can contact us through that line. We also have a dedicated email account, and you'll have that information from here. And there's also a phone that goes to the rapid response. So we won't leave you with this, but my experience as a professor is that if I give you information, you'll start fiddling around with it, and then it's harder to keep your attention. So we're going to pass them out in a little while. And we're going to give you some red cards also to take home, and there's some in the back as well on the way out that you can also take. We produce our own cards, and they also have the information line on them. And Alianza, as some of you don't know, is the long-term Spanish language publication here in town and advocacy for the mostly the Spanish-speaking Latino. Oh, Rosetta's here. I didn't see you, Rosetta. Please stand up and be recognized. She is a friend as well, a friend to us and a friend to the greater Latino community in Western Yavapai County. By the way, our organization, Advocates for Immigrants, we specialize in Western Yavapai County, sort of starting at Mayor and going all the way up to kind of Ash Fork sort of area. And there are sister organizations in Flagstaff, in the Verde Valley, and we also have people in other parts of the state. Jennifer and I participate in a statewide coalition of organizations. So if we don't know something, fortunately, we can contact them, and they usually can respond very quickly because people in the Valley have a lot of experience. My relationship with immigration started in the 1980s with the last time that people had an opportunity 40 years ago to legalize their status. That was the last time to be able to get a legalization program through, 1986. That's when I began in this area. What I really wanted to convey is a little bit about how things have operated in our region in terms of how people get caught up into an immigration problem. And it's important to know that the sheriff of Yavapai County has an agreement with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, but the local police in Chino and in Prescott and in Prescott Valley do not, okay? But if someone is stopped at a traffic stop by a sheriff, and that results in some suspicion that the sheriff has that the person is here without legal authorization, they can take the person to the local jail in Prescott or in Camp Verde and process them and transfer information through their photograph and their fingerprints to ICE, and that has been the main way until very recently that there has been ICE activity in our region through traffic stops. Someone stopped because they have a broken tail light. I mean, I don't know if this happens to you, but to me, I've never been in, well, I see more police. I see more local and, sheriff deputies in this region than the entire state combined. I mean, it's constant traffic of police, and they're shooting radar and pulling people over for, lots of different things. Now, there's lots of positives to that. but that's been how most immigrants have been caught. If they do not have a license, for instance, or a lot of people have consular cards from the Mexican consulate, which allows them, for instance, to register a car. The artificial intelligence that has been purchased by ICE and other HHS organizations is now being used to identify likely undocumented immigrants all over the United States. And then they have license plate readers. So you might have heard of a person detained in Filibertos, and it was because the ICE agent was outside running the license plate reader, recognized that the owner or the operator of this vehicle was not attached to an Arizona license, and suspected, therefore, that that person was undocumented, and went into Filibertos and asked whose car it was, didn't identify who they were, and when that person was identified, then they were detained. So all of these flock license readers that we have, they're also being used in this process. And the data can be instantaneously put together by this company called Palantir. I won't get into the details, but I mean, their data, they can put together lists. I had an interview with a Guatemalan who was deported about 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, after he was deported. And he reported, this was in Prescott, and he reported that when he was taken and put into the ICE car, and these are unmarked vehicles, right? They've been racing around in unmarked vehicles, that the ICE agent had a cell phone with a map of the neighborhood with dots on each place, each address that they were going to go and look for people. So they're not necessarily getting warrants to go into the house, because that's a lot of work to get a warrant signed by a judge. They're waiting for people to come out of their house, to get in their car, to go to work, and they're grabbing them that way. This week, and that was just a low alert, but this week, as you probably heard, or hopefully have heard, there was a real campaign that was intended to try to really round up people in this particular area. And there were at least, 5 or 6 agents that were there. We had at least 4, if not more, vehicles. And they were deployed, started on about 9 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning, that the news started coming in of ICE raids, right? The first one was, I think, in Prescott Valley, was it here, at the gasoline station, right, Rosanna? On Navajo,
Yep.
right?
Robert Spouse.
Spouse and Robert Road. Okay, so not too far away. And then they just started hitting. We had on Friday, Poland was one area, and we were concerned about the school. There wasn't much going on in Prescott necessarily, but there were people picked up in the new Jasper construction site on Friday. There was a lot of activity in Chino. One man who is a legal resident of the United States was hauled out of his vehicle and beaten up until he could pull his green card out of his pocket. And he's considered filing a complaint, but they're very frightened to be exposed to this kind of thing. This is what's been going on terrorizing this particular part of Yavapai County. But on the upside, and in a completely great and organic manner, some people that Rosanna particularly knows who have been social media icons in the region, particularly out of Prescott Valley, turn their social media feed from helping people, to know about events that are going on and places to find housing and so on, into a rapid response team. And so you can't imagine, if you can think about the movie credits. You're watching, at the end of a movie and they roll the credits. Well, imagine now that 2,000 people around the county, around this area, are observing things in their neighborhoods and sending photographs and videos and saying, I'm on this place, or I'm in this store, I don't see ice, or I do see ice, and avoid this, or you're okay for that, and it's just every single minute for all day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, until yesterday. That's been how it's been done. Community rising up, taking care of community. So what our organization, Advocates for Immigrants, is really trying to specialize in is helping to reach out to, we work directly with immigrants, of course, but we're also trying to reach out to like these kinds of meetings so that you know what's going on and you know that there's a role also for you to play, that you're very important as allies, as people who can kind of just express, we care. We're not these angry, anti-immigrant people. There are really people who care about you and value you and your presence in the community. So there's a variety of things that you can do. I'll take a couple of questions if there's any questions immediately about what you've seen, or what you would like to know more about what's been going on this week. If you have a question, yes.
Just curious. I remember about a year ago, July, coming home from the airport on the shuttle and the news breaking about ICE raiding Cold Barbecue. So that was like mid-July. Any correlation with here we are?
So the question is about the Cold Barbecue last year. That was a very different kind of thing. That was a long-standing operation which involved human trafficking of workers into these locations. But of course, the impact was that many people lost their jobs. Quite a few people were deported. Families interrupted, and so on. And then there was very little activity until the Prescott raids in late June, and those didn't last for very long. But this, in what's been happening this past week, is much more likely to be what we're going to be experiencing here for a while. Then it's the rumor is that it's going to move to Cottonwood. And then Flagstaff has a new ICE office up in Flagstaff, but it's primarily for just the officers to work out of. So this is what was promised in the Trump administration, but it's been happening in the Valley and happening in Tucson. Now we are involved, and we are, our community and our people, and people are very frightened, and there's a tremendous amount of need right now. So there's a role, there are many roles that you can play. So I'm going to pass it back to Jen, and she's going to talk to you about, unless there's another important, okay, sure.
Oh, I wanted to ask you, do you think the goals of ICE is to get the Latino markets on Roberts Road? And do you think that their goal is to target those
So the
markets?
question is, do I think that ICE's goal is to end the Latino markets in this area? No, ICE's goal really is to meet the number of deportations that has been set by the administration, which is 1 million per year for the 4 years. They didn't meet it last year, and they're not meeting it this year, so the pressure is really, really on. And as you know, they've been given $75 billion in like 1 year. So if you kind of count that out on a per capita basis, how much it costs to deport one person, I mean, it's just off the charts. But the bigger issue is that we're all being surveilled all the time now. Everything that we do is being surveilled, and all this data is being processed so that all of us could be also targeted, for one thing or another. And immigrants are most susceptible now. Sandy, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Once the person is picked up, what happens? You said they go to the jail, local jail, and then could you talk through the process after that?
I can briefly tell you what we know, because we don't always get information about, what we know about what happens to people once they are detained. Okay? This is one of the things that Jennifer and I work with a lot. And I speak, because I'm very fluent in Spanish, to a lot of the families. We encourage the families to come to us before they go to an attorney necessarily, because attorneys cost many thousands of dollars, very expensive. and it doesn't necessarily result in an outcome that's even favorable to the families. I just got on the hotline here a poor woman saying, I'm here, I'm undocumented, but I have a U.S.-born child with cystic fibrosis. Can you help me find an attorney who can fight for our case? You know, that kind of thing. So what we know is that when ICE is here, they have to find a place to load those that are detained into vans. These vans are not ICE vans, they're actually contracted with GeoCorp and some of these other companies that have been making billions and billions of dollars off of this, but don't get me started. And then they're taken to ICE headquarters in Phoenix. Then they're processed in ICE headquarters in Phoenix. But this one individual that I had a chance to interview, after he was deported back to Guatemala, I interviewed him in early July, a couple days after he was deported back. He said that before they were loaded into the van, they had their photographs taken. Those photographs were sent to the ICE office in Phoenix, so that by the time 2 hours later that this group of people in the van arrived into the ICE headquarters, ICE had already used facial recognition to pull up everything that the government had on this individual. That's how intense this system is. This past week, from what we know, given documentation again through the community, is that the transportation center, so the vans to transport people who were taken, were not in the same location that they had been before, which was at the Yavapai County building. That was in June. So the vans were at the Yavapai County building. This time they were at the jail in Prescott. And so we have photographs and videos of people being transferred into those vans. And then they were transporting people down to ICE. Once they're processed for ICE, then they're taken to a detention center. And most of the people this week that I found out about have been taken to the Florence Detention Center, which is overcrowded. One woman reported that her husband had, when she finally got to talk to him, he hadn't been given food for 2 days. This is typical. This is very typical. The Guatemalan I interviewed also reported he didn't get any food and they didn't have beds and they were in a freezing ice cold holding pen with no place to sleep and no food. So this is the kind of treatment that the United States is being known for now for us. From there, depends on their case, and it's very complicated to talk about. It's one of the things that Jennifer really knows quite well, and I know to some extent that we're learning about. But they're usually very much pressured to sign a document which basically says, deport me now, because ICE threatens them that they will never be allowed to leave detention. They can't leave detention until their case is resolved. It could be months, it could be years, and you've been hearing about people dying in detention centers probably, right? Now remember, these are people that are picked up off the street. They probably don't have any medication with them. They can't go home. They can't communicate immediately with their family members. People don't know what's happened to them, and their life is completely severed. They're not, Trump has promised that once you're detained, you're not going to be released until you basically show that you shouldn't be deported, which requires an enormous amount of effort, or you sign your rights away and they deport you. And when they deport you, they don't have to deport you back to their country, right? We know that. But what's more frequent is they take you back to your country, but nowhere near where your family lives. And the hell of what happens to you there. So I'm going to pass it back over to Jen, because I want to emphasize that that there are things that you can do, and we really welcome your assistance on that. And then we'll be here after the presentation is over, so that we can answer more questions if you'd like. Okay? But this is just a quick update about what we've been experiencing.
Thank you. So we're going to pass these out, and if you don't know how to use a QR code, I can show you how to do that. But one of the ways that you can help is by going to small businesses in our community that are owned by Latinos. So if you support local businesses, the first code on here goes to a list of businesses, markets and restaurants and things like that, and it's separated by community, Prescott Valley, Chino Valley. So that's a really good way. I've been taking the cards to 4 markets in Prescott Valley a couple of times this week, and 2 of them I noticed had a lot of people having lunch the last time I was there. A lot of people that look like us. So that was very encouraging to see the community come and support these businesses that need help during this time when their regular customers are fearful to leave their homes. The second thing is some GoFundMe accounts. So, as Sarah said, attorneys are very, very expensive. I spoke with an attorney this week, or their assistant, and just for the initial work on a deportation case was going to be $7,000. And another attorney said $12,000 to $14,500. So obviously this is not something that most people can afford. So we have
Part of the plan.
families that we would hope that you'd be able to help support, and their information is on here. They're all men who were taken away from their families. They're all husbands and fathers and hardworking people in this community. So that's another way that you can give money directly to the families to help. And you can help by joining us as well. If you're interested in volunteering, we have a sign-up sheet here. If you want to be part of the Advocates for Immigrants group, please let us know if you speak Spanish, because we're always looking for additional people that can help with translation. And if you want to mark if you're interested in rapid response or family plans, then that would be great. Or if you have any legal training, that would be good too. And then the red cards are also a really great way that you can help, because you can give those to people within your own circle, within your own neighborhood. If you have someone that works in your home sometimes, if you have a hairdresser or a landscaper or anyone that you know that might need this or might know someone that needs a card, then you can pass that out. And finally, we are a volunteer organization. We're just a group of people that we all volunteer our time. And so we do have a jar on our table. If you would like to donate to us, that helps us to offset the cost of printing the cards and printing the things that we give out to people, because otherwise that comes from our own pockets. So, any questions then? Yes? So you can do that online, and I can show you how to do that if anyone wants help with that. The QR codes, what you do is you open your camera on your phone, and you point it at that, and then the little thing will pop up, and you click on that. It opens a web page where you can donate directly on the web page to the family.
Just so you know, anyone who needs to go to the second service, the time is now. You're excused, don't feel odd getting up, but also we can stay and ask questions, so that's no problem.
Yes, thank you.
And I have one question.
Yes.
How, with all these things going on, we know that a great majority of Americans are against this kind of thing that ICE does in the way they execute their orders. Why do you suppose so many Americans are not standing up? Do you think it's information? It seems like Americans just are not really reacting enough in the huge group that I would expect.
So the question is a lot of Americans are against this, the things that ICE is doing, but why are Americans not reacting and rising up? Well, I don't know that I have an answer, but
I wonder if it's connected to the information.
I have a right back.
I have a few thoughts regarding that. As the current administration's program was put into place and has evolved over a year and a half now, we may all have observed how their techniques seem to have changed. We can all recall the news reports last fall about what was going on in Chicago, and then this winter in Minneapolis. These were huge, very visible kinds of operations. Americans had a great opportunity to see what's going on. We did react. A Trump appointed officer lost her job, no, because of the pushback, largely because of the pushback that ordinary Americans were making towards what we were witnessing on TV, the murdering of citizens, the cruelty behind the program. Since then, leadership has changed and their techniques have changed. They're not involved with these big, huge, visible events that are easily reported on by our mass media and our journalists, et cetera, et cetera. What we're seeing are individuals being picked up. Sarah described how ICE waited for an individual to come out of their home, into their car, go to work, and then stop them. My analogy there is it's like a traffic stop. Who pays too much attention to a traffic stop? No one does. No one knows about it. We can't respond as rapid responders quickly enough to that kind of incidents because information has to get to us, and by the time it gets to us, this very small, and then we then go out and take a look at what's going on. The event is over. I think that those techniques have really helped ICE's efforts to sort of stay out of the visibility of the mass media and journalists, and so we don't know as much about what's going on, and thus we don't have this opportunity to react to it. But as things change, I think that we get smarter, and everyone gets smarter, and I would maintain that the resistance that Americans have taken against ICE operations has forced them to become, I'm going to loosely use this term, more civil. And that's probably a good thing. Anyway.
Very important question. A couple of things I would add to what Mike said is that we've learned, and Jennifer and I are in this larger statewide organization that's linked beyond Arizona. You may not have heard, but we have heard of the arrest and prosecution of people who are protesting ICE activities. It's a and there's a group of people in Texas that were sentenced. One was sentenced to 70 years in prison. Right now, granted, he did something very serious. He did shoot an officer, but people who murder multiple people don't get 70 years. So this is all trying to make us feel like frightened that we can go out and protest.